Morning painters, we're live from the patio in Colorado. This is the Friday morning plein air live show. We're here every Friday morning, 9 a.m. to inspire each other, to get educated, motivated for plein air landscape painting. And so what we do is we work on skills and techniques so that when we head out to the fields and streams, it's kind of a reflex to be able to deal with the challenges that come your way, as much of a reflex as I don't know, turning into a Starbucks on your way to work. So I got my coffee. Hope you got yours. I'm fired up. Let me know if you're there in the chat. Say hello. And usually I show, well, hey, today we're going to do values. Okay. So we're going to talk about values. Just really excited, although we're not going to be using color. This is really what's going to help take you from this level in plein air painting to that level. Values are so important. Even all the years that I've been painting, I still struggle with it. And if my paintings are off, it's usually because I didn't succeed in what we're going to talk about today. So hope you're fired up, and this is going to be fun. So we're going to take a landscape painting that I've done in the past. I did this in April, and we're going to talk about values and that painting. And not so much that this is a masterpiece painting by any means. I just wanted a big painting, 18 by 24. Hey, AZ, Deborah, good morning. Glad you're with us. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. And so it's not that it's a masterpiece that we're painting here, looking at. It's just that I needed a pieces painting, like easily identifiable pieces, and where I could kind of show you some values. So that's what's going on. So, hey, AZ saying took my gray scale card, laminated it, and put my point on it to get the right value. Yes, I like that, AZ. I was thinking of doing that as well. And this palette, the Plein Air Pro, it came with a value scale, which I thought was pretty cool, but it obviously got covered up very quickly with the paint film of multiple paintings. But I am going to make up a value scale, I think, and just kind of play around with it. So any comments or suggestions you have on values, I look forward to your feedback. Last week we talked about limited palette. If you didn't see that, go back and watch that. It was really a cool live show because we had a lot of interaction from people like AZ and Deborah, and we were able to kind of get a lot of feedback in there, and Eric was on as well. And that's going to be really valuable for you if you're a beginner plein air painter to see what these people had to say. So usually before we get started, I just want to say that if you're watching this on replay, leave us a comment. Let me know how I can help you, what kind of videos you would like, or a suggestion, okay? And if we have not met, real quickly, I'm Terry with Learning Plein Air. The channel is Learning Plein Air. And we're here for beginner plein air painters to get you motivated and inspired to start plein air painting. And for those of you that just started in the last few years, to really kind of take you to the next level if we can, just to help you on your journey. We're all on a plein air journey. And again, if you're in the chat, say hello. This is a live show. We're working on plein air painting. And what's the saying of the day, says AZ. Good, let's get to it, man. Right on cue. Thank you. The quote of the day today. I love this quote of the day, so thank you. The quote of the day is, I don't paint things, I only paint the difference between things, by Henri Matisse. That was my French accent, or at least my best attempt at a French accent. Henri Matisse. So I don't paint things, I only paint the difference between things. That is so deep and so important to what we're talking about today. And you always hear me in my videos harping on that it's a comparison game. So we're going to talk about that today. And yeah, that was my, if Bob from France gets on or watches this, he will understand that French accent. I mean, Henri, that's how you say, isn't it, Bob? I think so. That's how you say Henri en français, in French. So that's the quote of the day. We're ready. Okay, let's get fired up here. This live stream is brought to you by the new Facebook group, the Learning Plein Air Group. Go ahead and join. It's at about 50 people right now. It's nice and small. I kind of wish it would stay this way. I don't think it will, but it's nice to just kind of hear from different people all over and what they're working on, their ideas for setup and supply, and just different mediums they're using. It's really a cool group. So, okay. So, hey, we usually show a painting. I want to show you something real quick. I think this might be helpful for you. I usually show a painting from last week, but I want to show you a photo of a painting that I did when I was doing my apprenticeship. And I just want to talk just really briefly for about 15, 20 seconds on it. Okay. So it's a printout. So it's not like the actual painting, but sorry, everything's backwards when I do the iPhone. There's the painting. Okay. And so I was doing an apprenticeship in Russian impressionism with my mentor, Don Solly. He's out of Colorado. He's still alive and well and thriving plein air painter. And so what he said was, I even took notes here. I want to show you what I did wrong in this painting. So he said to me in his notes, he said, your snow scene is quite nice. There are some areas of monotony, same strokes, same colors, done the same way. More contrast is needed. It's easy for me to say, it just takes time and mileage. Good work, very strong plein air piece. I might argue about the very strong plein air piece, but let me show you something here real quick, okay? So about the strokes, if you're a beginning plein air painter, you probably have this same problem. I call it, strokey. Every stroke you do, no matter where it is on the canvas, is kind of done the same way. Watch out for that, okay? That could be a really good tip for you. It's kind of like a nervous tick, or when people say oh, or I say it's your strokey is kind of that one stroke that you use all the time. Try to get rid of that. It will go with time, but now that I know more, there could be more contrast in the trees here, more contrast here because there's light and shadow here. These tracks in the snow could be more powerful, so more powerful darks in the foreground to show a little bit of perspective. But anyway, I wanted to show you that really quick so we can learn from each other's struggles and mistakes. But let's start, man. So what I've done here, I know that it's hard to see colors and stuff on the screen. You're not sitting here. When I watch these back on replay, oftentimes things look different when you watch it from what I see here live, but I'm just checking the chat here. All right. I took a picture of the phone. AZ is saying I took a picture of the phone of my painting, then converted it to black and white to see if my values are correct. Yeah, I love that idea. Does that work pretty well? I've never tried that, AZ, but that's a really brilliant idea. So if you're beginning, take that tip right there from AZ. You can use your iPhone, take a picture, all the filters and settings, just put it in black and white, and then you can see, we're going to talk about this in 1 minute about what AZ just said about values. But here's the thing with values. Okay, what are values? If you're just beginning, some of the people on here already know this, but values are basically just the amateur definition of values, is just how light or dark something is. It's on a scale, right? It's on a scale of like light, white to black. Okay. And I use a 4 value scale myself. You can use a 10 value scale. You can just do whatever you want. There's no rules, man. But I use 4 values. I use a light, a midtone, a dark, and a black. And what I mean by that is I keep that in my brain when I'm painting a painting like this. I try to nail those values and put them in the right piece, the right place. A light, a midtone, a dark, and a black. Let me go over to the painting real quick, and I want to show you something. Okay, I'll talk louder so you can hear me. You won't see me, but you'll see me pointing at the painting. Give me 1 sec here. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm thinking with this painting, it's a pieces painting, but like the sky is light, the mountain is like a midtone. I was close to the mountain. Usually mountains are like a light value, but I was literally standing underneath the mountain. So that's kind of a midtone. And then right here, this is a key piece of the painting. It's the mountain behind this main mountain. And the difference in value of these two can really show some depth, just one little piece like that. And so we've got a light, a midtone. You can't see much of it. If I were to do the painting again, I would make this darker. These are the evergreen trees that come up at the base of the mountain. And then you've got the black, my evergreen forest. So we've got a light, midtone, dark, and a black in the forest. And then this foreground could be like a midtone or a light right here. It could be kind of either. It had light and shadow. Okay, I have no idea if you could hear any of that. If you could hear that, say yes. But that was kind of important. So that's how I look at a painting, and that's what we're going to do today. And I've mixed up my value scale. Okay, I've mixed up a light, a midtone, a dark, and a black. So we're not using color. We're just talking about values. But now, let me say this real quick as we get going. Okay, basically value. Here, let me grab my paper towels. You guys doing all right? You fired up for the weekend? Was it a tough week? A good week? Did you paint this week? All right, I'm gonna start filling in this with my light value, but value creates the illusion of form, light, and space. So I hope you heard that. Value creates the illusion of form, light, and space. Okay. This panel, by the way, was what we used last week for the apples. I scraped it. Thanks, AZ. So you could hear me. So that's kind of how I think about layering, atmospheric perspective. You know, in a painting like this, there wasn't much opportunity to show linear perspective. You always hear me talk about that: railroad tracks, roads, buildings. It's all about atmospheric perspective, and the way you achieve that is by manipulating colors and values. Today we're talking about values, man. It's all about values. So this is my light right here, and the thing is, I'm gonna have to adjust these as we go. So here's the important point. Okay, you can be the best palette mixer in the world. You've heard me say this before, but that doesn't matter. That's only half the battle, right? It's one color and one value next to the other. That's what makes you a successful plein air landscape painter. It's the comparison game. So do your best to mix them up. That's great. That's half the battle. But then here, you're going to have to adjust. You know, every painter has to adjust. You don't just mix up the right color and put it on and just leave it and say, I'm good. You got to evaluate it, all right, and see if you achieved it. So that's my light, all right. I'm going to go into my mid-tone right here. And this light may need to be changed. Like, it's lighter than the sky in that painting. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm getting at. So value, here's the point, tip number one. Value creates the illusion of light, space, and form, but color can't do that as well. That's why we're talking about values. That's why values are number one and colors number two. And I'm a colorist. Because I guess here's another way of saying it. Colors can't fix your bad values. Colors can't fix your bad values. No matter how flashy and brilliant your brushstrokes are and how colorful and great, if your foundational and structural values are off, your painting, you can't save it. You can't rescue it. Just like a house, right? If a house has bad foundation and you paint it and it looks awesome, it's going to fail, right, at some point. Same with the painting. So let's keep cruising here. So that's an important point that we got to think about as we do this. So let's go into the mid-tone. And again, welcome if you're just joining us. We're doing a live show. We're plein air painters. We love plein air. It's a healthy addiction, if you will. Okay, this is going to be my mid-tone right here, the mountain. And I'm just squinting and looking, you know, as I did when I was out there. And I'm just seeing this as all one big piece. See? And what I look at when I'm out in the field, what I look at is I look at one edge where it changes, the edge of this mountain compared to the light. So that's what I look at. I don't sit there and just kind of fix my eyes on this mountain for 34 minutes straight. I'm always searching and comparing around the canvas. You know, that's kind of what I do. Now, and I blur the lines. That's just kind of my style, right? But that's our piece right there of that mountain. Kind of make it just look a little bit like a mountain here. And then it comes around. I know this mountain well. I've painted it probably 15 times, but now this interesting little piece right here, that's a mid-tone. That's a mid-tone, but it's not the same color as that mid-tone. So I'm going to do something on the fly, and I'm just going to switch, because this piece is really one of the most important pieces in the painting. That's that mountain behind the mountain. It shows depth and perspective, atmospheric perspective through the use of value. So I'm going to put a little bit of white in my mid-tone, and I'm just going to lighten it a bit. And yeah, see, that's about right. It's darker than the sky. It's darker than the sky, but it's lighter than this. And I could even go just a hair darker, you know? Yep, just like right there. Okay, but you get what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to make a masterpiece. I need you to kind of listen to what I'm saying. It's more important than what I'm doing here, because it's hard to film and paint and do all that at once. But let's see what else. Okay, this is important too. I think we were talking about this on a previous live. I think AZ may have brought it up, but you can paint this way out in the field from grays. There are some, you know, kind of painters that will teach this. So mix up your values and then put your colors in the value piles, and that's how you do your painting. I don't do it like that, but I think that's a good way to go. I really do. So did I explain it correctly? You mix up your values in black and white or neutral grays in tones, and that way you have a good value structure set up, right? And then when you want to put your colors in, you just mix your colors into those piles. I think that's a better way to say it. And that way, because this is one of our points, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it's so important to make your colors match the values. You know what I'm saying? It's so important that when you start putting color in, you don't go crazy and get outside your value range. You know what I mean? Okay, right here, these are these evergreen trees that kind of come up. So light, mid-tone, dark, those evergreen trees that kind of come up the base of the mountain, you know? I would say because they were so close to me, it was like a dark. And that's how you show perspective, atmospheric perspective on a mountain. Now, you may not have mountains, but maybe you have, you know, rivers and fields and streams. And, you know, even though this is a part of the mountain, it's a way to show atmospheric perspective by making that just a little bit darker. And I wish in the actual painting, I really love that color that I came up with. I wish that I had shown more of this, you know, just as a sake of interest. But great, thanks, AZ. Let's see. Yeah, so I wish I'd shown more of that in the actual painting. Okay, now on to black. All right, and so already you're starting to see, you know, what I'm talking about with values. We got a value piece here, a value piece here, there. And really, it's 3 to 5. I call them structural or foundational values. So that's what I call them. And basically, here's what you really need for a successful painting: flashy brushstrokes and great color. No, I'm just kidding. That's not what you need. You need 3 to 4 easily identifiable values and a good composition. That's all you need. Like, it's like AZ was saying. That's why he checks his values on his iPhone, because he knows that the foundational values, if they're in place, if they're correct, the painting is going to be a beautiful painting. It's going to read well to people, right? And so that's really, let me just say that point again. You just need 3 to 4 structural values or good values and a good composition for a successful painting. So a lot of people think I got to make flashy brushstrokes. I got to make beautiful color. I got to, you know, I got to do all these things, but you really don't. And so that's my value scale, 1 to 4. I'm not a complicated dude. I like to keep it simple. So I've got a light, I've got a dark, and a mid-tone. Well, let me reverse that. A light, a mid-tone, a dark, and a black. A light, a mid-tone, a dark, and a black. And for me, you know, because if I have a 10 value scale, the chances of me realistically in 2 hours painting a plein air painting, nailing 10 values, for me, it's not going to happen. But I can do 4, you know, and I think in that painting right there, I got about 3 or 4 values. I like the painting. I wouldn't say it's like one of my best, but I think I was successful in showing some different values in the painting, you know, and that's half the battle is all I'm trying to say. So again, if you're joining us, we're doing a live. We love plein air painting. Leave me a comment if you're watching on replay, or say hello in the chat and let me know where you're watching from. So that was the dark. Let's do the black. And now we should really see if this lines up. When you do the black, I always start my paintings with my darkest dark for a reason, because it helps me key all other colors in the painting. That's how I do it. You may not do it like that. Some people start with the sky and they work forward in a painting. So from backwards to forwards. So sky, middle ground, foreground. Some painters do that. If you watch the realist Andrew Tischler on YouTube, if you're a realist painter, you don't really like my style, watch Andrew Tischler. Extremely talented, amazing artist. But he's not really like a plein air guy. He's more portrait and studio landscape, but he starts with the sky and moves forward. I don't. I start with my darkest dark in the foreground, and then I go backwards, furthest from me. That's how I do it. It's up to you. There's no rules, right? But when you do put the dark in, you will figure out really quickly. When you put the black in, that is, you'll figure out, or the darkest dark, you'll figure out how you're doing. So these are my evergreen trees in the painting right here. And I'm just going to do it like in a shape, like a geometric shape, right? You can do this in the field if you want. I think it's really a smart way to go, because people, right from the drawing, people already try to draw trees. And I think that's a mistake if you do that. I think what you need to do is stay abstract for as long as you can. And then they get higher, like right here. But again, I don't want to cover up my evergreen trees like I did in the actual painting. I should have done this and just kind of kept it low, kept my trees lower. This is a 12 by 16. That's an 18 by 24, the actual painting. And then the way this landscape goes is it dissipates off. So another way to show perspective, and I didn't really achieve it as well in that painting, is another negative that I would like to have changed, but these trees get smaller as they dissipate away. See what I just did there? So big to small. That shows some linear perspective. It's called linear perspective. Okay. But there, that's my dark. Okay. So you can see I've got a dark. Sorry, I've got a black. I keep mixing it up. I got a black, a dark, and a mid-tone and a light. And I could adjust this dark of these trees a little bit, I think, as we go on the fly. I could make that maybe just a little bit darker. I know it's hard for you maybe to discern watching it on video, what I'm doing. It's hard to see the subtleties of it, I know, but I'm trying to talk you through it, you know. And then later in the painting, I can do the fancies, you know. I can go like that, and then I can draw my trees, right? You don't. It's like I think this weekend I'm going to release I showed you that aspen painting last week. I'm going to release that aspen painting video tomorrow, if all goes well today. But you don't paint trees. You don't paint trees. I'm giving you kind of the ending of the story, if you will, if you watch that video. It's not about painting leaves and trees. You just don't. You can't do that. And so you got to stay. If you like this style, and even if you don't, I think you just got to stay abstract, just as long as you can, you know. And then these get smaller right here as you go away, you know, kind of like that, right? And I could even change the value of these. So here's another important point. This is obvious, but I got to state it for the beginners. Within each piece, there are different values and colors, right? It's not just, you don't just paint 4 values and colors for your painting, right? It's just kind of obvious, but I paint thin to thick and then big to small. So the very end of my painting, that's when I'll come in and I'll go like this, you know, like this. That's when I'll come in with the light on the mountain at the very end, you know. I'm doing the pieces, you know, within the pieces within the pieces. And I'm looking where the light and shadow is, you know. And so that's kind of how I do that. Okay. So again, on these trees, there's light and shadow. These trees aren't just, I want to see what AZ is saying here, blocking in the shapes with the values. Okay, great. So what AZ is saying is early on in the painting, you just start by blocking in the shapes of what you're looking at with the right value. Put the right value in the right place, the right color in the right place. If you watch my previous videos, I call it CVT, color, value, temperature. You got to put the right color, the right value, and the right temperature in the right place. And that's the key right there. So thank you, AZ, for bringing that up. And it's kind of bugging me. I got to blend. Got to blend a little bit. Light into dark, dark into light. You can just have fun with that, you know, and see. It's not all one value. It's smaller values and temperature changes within the big piece. You got to show plane. They're called plane changes. I'm getting a little ahead of us here, maybe, but they're called wherever there's a plane change on an object, like a barn or a face or whatever. There's going to be a change in value. Wherever there's a plane change, there'll be a change in value. Now, the foreground, and I've got another tip for you here about squinting. So stay with me here for just another minute about squinting, okay? But let's just get my last value in here. And it could be, the foreground could be a light. I'm just going to go with my mid-tone color. So I've got a light, a mid-tone, a dark, and a black. That's how I do it. I'm just looking at the sun. I'm trying to keep my palette in shade so you can see, but that's kind of my mid-tone color. So you compare, right? The black to the mid-tone, and you just kind of see, and you read, and then you change on the fly. That's what's fun about plein air painting, you know, is it's like a puzzle that you got to kind of put together in a couple hours. It's really, really fun that way. So I'm not so sure that I've achieved, you know, the right value scale here. I think I'm pretty close, but I got my points across to you. And then here's what I want to say about squinting, okay, is that I would highly recommend that you squint to find your structural values, to find your value scale. I'd highly, nice contrast. Thank you, AZ. Yeah, that's what you're trying to achieve, you know, is with your scale is you're trying to dial something in from, you're always trying to create contrast. So thanks for bringing that up. That's my number one goal really in a painting, because contrast creates interest. It creates emotion. When people look at a beautiful painting, it's probably going to have a lot of good contrast in it. But with squinting, what I do is I'll squint out into the landscape to find my identifiable pieces, my 3 to 5 identifiable structural values. And now here's the thing about squinting. Don't squint to find the absolute value. Okay. The absolute value is how I wanted to say that. The absolute value. Okay. So, because when you squint, it changes depending on your eyes and what you're looking at and what the light is doing. It doesn't give you the absolute value, the correct absolute value. It doesn't. What squinting does is it takes three-dimensional landscape with a lot of details, and the squinting it takes out the details so that you can just see pieces, and that's what you want. So that's why I would like you to squint if you don't, to get your pieces, your values. And then you're taking three-dimensional pieces that are confusing, you're squinting, and you make them two-dimensional flat shapes, and you assign a value to it. Does that make sense? Hold on, I got to shift my umbrella, man. The sun's like right in my eyes. Give me 1 second. I'm still with you. Okay, there we go. I've got an umbrella. I just bought a new Julian plein air umbrella because my other one busted after like 8 years. But I think I got it off Amazon. Maybe dickblick.com is where I get most of my stuff. I think I put those links in the description if you'd like to know where I get my setup. But back to squinting, okay? So I think I made my point. I don't want to belabor it, but you gotta squint. But then you gotta open up your eyes later to find the correct absolute value of something and the color, right? So good tip right there. If you didn't know that kind of stuff, that's really going to help you because, you know, squinting, it changes the value, the absolute value. It makes, like when I look at the mountains out there right now and I squint, they become lighter when I squint. The value of the mountains, they become lighter when I squint. Just depends on the day, depends on the light, okay? So welcome again. If you're just joining us, we're taking that painting that I did on plein air out in the mountains, and we're talking about values, okay? So I think that I think we achieved something here. I think that I'm off just a little bit, but I got my points, right? So a light, a mid-tone, a slight shift in value of the mid-tone here, a dark with the evergreens right here, and a black right here with these closer up evergreen trees that are right, like I'm standing right beneath these evergreen trees. And then the foreground has light and shadow in it, but you always want to put, if there's an opportunity, your darkest dark in the foreground. You've heard me talk before about atmospheric windows. I'll mention it again at the risk of being redundant, but new people always watch this. So just listen to me one more time with atmospheric windows. Okay. So you paint outside like you're looking through a windows, atmospheric curtains or windows, I call it. And so in the foreground window, everything's clear. It's like looking through a window right there. It's clear. And so your darkest darks, your brightest brights, your coolest cools, everything in the foreground window. The middle ground window, your value's got to be more mid-tone, right? Hey, Corey Schmidt, good morning. I think Corey's from Montrose, Colorado. Good to have you, Corey. Any tips for handling dark objects in the mid-distance while still preserving the sense of depth? This is a struggle for me. All right, so any tips for handling dark objects in the mid-distance while still preserving sense of depth? Yeah. I think this could maybe help. Let me know. But these atmospheric windows, okay? So things that are she's talking about things that are in the middle window where I was going next, the middle values. The middle window, atmospheric window, belongs to your midtones, okay? So you can still have a dark, you can still have warms and cools, but they cannot be darker and they cannot be cooler or warmer than everything in the foreground window. Does that make sense? So the midground, the middle ground belongs to the midtones. You got to have your midtones right there. And midtones are just what they are. They're middle. They're in the middle. They're not too light. they're not too dark. I would never put like my brightest, unless I was doing a sunset, my brightest stuff, like I would never put that in the back window, you know, in the back atmospheric window. I'd never do that. The foreground is where your brightest flowers go, or your brightest grass, or whatever you're painting. Okay, and then the background is what I'm trying to say. Your third window, okay, is where the lightest values go, and the coolest temperatures go. Really, that's how you. And Corey, you paint mountains just like I do. So what you're saying, Corey, is you're kind of struggling with this middle ground. Try, even though you might see it as darker or dark, try to just mix up a midtone. Okay, try to follow what I just said. So right here, like little flowers, little shadows, little tree stumps, whatever it is, right here, a tree, bam, your darkest dark right there. Okay, and that, since you don't go any darker than that back here, this will lead the viewer's eye into your focal point, and it will present proper structural values. So darkest darks belong here. In the middle ground, you got to lighten that up a little bit somehow. You got to either add some yellow ochre, you got to add some warmer colors to your value to make it a middle value. Tell me if that helps, Corey, or not. Let me know. Just re-ask it, or let me know if that helps. But that's how I know Corey's a landscape oil painter, plein air painter as well, and that's how I try to paint these mountains. That, you know, is I look at it through atmospheric windows, and I really, 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 if I do a successful painting, it's because I achieved atmospheric perspective through the use of values and colors, you know, and temperature changes. So let me know if that helped. I'm going to take a swig of coffee so I can think straight. And how are we doing? We're going to have a live Q&A here in a couple minutes, and that's okay. You can fire your questions away like Corey just did, and we'll just do it on the fly. But let me know what you're struggling with. I do YouTube videos. Really, they're for you. They're not for me. I can care less. I hate seeing myself on YouTube. I do them to help you. So that perspective video I did in Telluride on perspective, although the sound quality sucked, I did that because somebody asked about perspective. And I don't know if it was Deborah or somebody else asked me about something else, but I'll do the videos on what you asked me about. So I hope that helped, Corey. Let me know. I'm just checking the chat here. Sorry to get my ugly mug in here, but I'm looking at my iPhone. All right. And so we'll just kind of move on. But, you know, the more contrast you create with your black, with your darkest darks right here. Okay. And Corey, this may help as well. It'll automatically push your middle ground colors back. So if you're fighting your middle ground darks, maybe don't, number one strategy would be to adjust those values and colors. But number two, if that doesn't work for you, you got to go and adjust the colors around it. So maybe you're making your background too dark. See, when you make this background light, okay, you create contrast around these trees. See, like that. So you can make your mountain lighter like that. Okay. You can make your mountain lighter in value like that. And it makes this, see how that tree just popped out? That can also be a way to help achieve atmospheric perspective as well. So let me look at this. Thanks, it does. I think you're saying midtones and maybe more muted colors in that area too. That's exactly what I'm saying. The middle ground. So you got foreground, middle ground, background. Always plein air paint with that in mind. You're making it, you're creating the illusion of three-dimensional for people. You're taking a flat canvas with nothing on it, and it's up to you to use color value and temperature to convince people that you've got this beautiful, you know, kind of depth and atmosphere going on in your painting. So that's exactly what I'm saying, is adjust, not necessarily with titanium white either, Corey. Use other colors like cad orange, yellow ochre, use cad red, and make them more. You guys know that, I think Corey probably knows this, but you guys know that in order to take the vibrancy or chroma out of a color, you mix in the opposite color on the color wheel. And I know Corey already knows that, but for beginners, you may not know that. So what Corey's trying to achieve here is, I would say, mix more of your complementary color in to gray it down, take the vibrancy and chroma out of it. And that will change the value. And then make your foreground darks darker. Like punch it, man. Create some interest. Paint with emotion. That's overstate it. Say something. Say something. It's like lukewarm water. No one likes to drink that, but say something powerful in your painting. Take a chance. Be risky. Make this darker than or more colorful than. And that's another way to achieve atmospheric perspective. So I can darken this up, or I can lighten this up, and I can play it back and forth. But I hope that helps. Didn't mean to go on about that, but Corey brings up a really, really important point, and I think it's worth elaborating on. So let me know if you have other questions. I've got a question here from a subscriber that I can mention real quick that others may have. But let me just say this real quick. This is important. This is like the bonus tip. Okay, value does all the work, and color gets the credit. That's what I've been saying for this whole half hour, right? But if you want to put a slogan to it, value does all the work and color gets the credit. So if you do your values right and assign the proper color, let me just do that real quick. Okay, I'm gonna put a color in just real quick. If you assign the right color to the right value, I mean, let's just do it in the mountain. I'm gonna put in ultramarine blue. I'm going to put in some permanent rose, or you could do cad red. And I'm going to try to keep that color in the mid-tone value. So as I mix it, I got to kind of keep in mind, that's too dark. I got to keep in mind the right value as I mix the color, and that's maybe about right. I'm getting close. So I know I said I wasn't going to do color, but I couldn't help myself. Just give me a minute here. We'll kind of finish out here soon, but that's pretty close to a mid-tone color. And so as you're mixing your color, you got to make sure that you stay in your value range that you created. Okay. So that's about right. I'm thinking it's probably a little dark, maybe, it might be a little dark, but it's close. Okay. It's close. That's my mid-tone mountain color right there. And then with my evergreens right here, I would make them colorful. And AZ says, super job. Thanks, man. That's why we're here, right? Inspire each other, encourage each other. But I would make my trees with phthalo blue, the shadow with phthalo blue, with some alizarin crimson. Here's a way to make a black. You already know this, but let me state it for the beginners. Don't just use, I've got black here, but I don't keep black on my palette. I don't like it. I like to mix colorful blacks, and you can use alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, and a green. So whether you have a cheater color on your palette, like phthalo green, or mix your own green with yellow and blue. And so that's how you can mix these evergreen trees. I think what I did with those evergreens is I put a lot of blues in the shadow, a lot of reds. You've heard me that last tree video that we did on YouTube on why your trees look flat, why your greens look flat. I apologize. Why your greens look flat is we talked about the complementary color is needed in the shadow of the tree. So there's got to be some red tones, violet tones, whatever you want, however you want to dial it in with green. You can't just make, a black or boring green shadow color. At least, I mean, you can, but I don't. So hope that helps. That's how I would, do that. And so I just put that color over top of my pile. So back to the beginning, what AZ mentioned a couple of live shows ago was some teachers will teach that you make your value piles up and then you put the color over top of it or mix from there. And that's what I did. And it worked out pretty good, man. It was pretty close right there with that mountain color. It might be off a bit, but it's pretty close. So if you're a beginner, that's not a bad way to go to make sure that your values line up with your colors. Okay. Any other questions? Fire them at me. Comments, suggestions? All right. Nice day to paint in the sun. Absolutely it is. It's 39 degrees here in Colorado. The sun is out. We're going through a stable, kind of sunny, blue sky fall here in Colorado right now. And in November, the skies will get kind of moody and disturbed as we gear up for winter. So, but yeah, here's a question that may help you from a subscriber as I wait for your questions to come in. Hold on, Deborah's got one here. We'll just see what she's saying. When do you use the orange? I've never had it on my palette. When do you use the orange? Orange is, I think orange is really an essential color to have on your palette, Deborah, because it can be used. It's a very versatile color, and it helps you it helps you tone down your strong violets, right? So, and blues. Orange, as you know, on the color wheel is the complementary color to violet, to blue, right? So orange is needed to tone down, or to desaturate is another word for it, to take the chroma down, the vibrancy, the color out of strong blues and violets. So if you want to make a colorful gray that leans on the side of like a violet, but you don't want this to be, you know, like I wouldn't just kind of go like that with like ultramarine blue. I mean, I guess you could, but it's too chromatic. It's too vibrant. So that's where I would take orange. Okay, let's just do it real quick. I would take orange, mix it into this pile. Okay, and watch what it does. I'll put it right beside here so you can see. See, it takes all the blue. Maybe I need a little more blue. I put too much orange in there, but it takes all the blue out of that color. But I made a nice neutral gray. So Deborah, that's one reason you need orange. Another is it's a power color. So it's if you need to pop something, you know, like I did in this painting right here, I needed cad orange and I needed cad yellow to go and to pop, you know, the foreground grasses that were just receiving so much light. So that's kind of that's what I think about cad orange. If you're watching, throw in the chat what you think about cad orange. But that's kind of two ideas that I got right off the bat. And it's called cadmium orange. That's the color that I use. Whoa, paper towel problem. But you know, I use Gamblin paints and I use Utrecht, and I'm pretty happy with the Utrecht orange color because the value is good. The price isn't too high, as high as Winsor & Newton and Gamblin artist grade colors. But it still has some good potency to it. And then so Deborah's saying, I've never had violet on my palette either. Right. So I mean, you always want to have one of the primaries, right? So you want to have, you know, red, yellow, and blue, yellow, blue, and red. You want to have one of those on your palette. Orange isn't, you know, necessary because you can make orange from yellow and red, right? So a little color mixing lesson for beginners. You don't really need cad orange because you can make orange from yellow and red. So I could have done the same thing by mixing yellow and red. And I would highly encourage beginners to just, like we said last live show, start with a limited palette. Start with just 3 colors, 4 colors, 6 colors, because you really learn how to do stuff like this, you know? Again, I could have used cad yellow and cad red to do the same thing I just did right there. So if you've never had violet on your palette, yeah, and you don't need it, but you do need a blue, like pick a blue, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, or phthalo blue. You need one of those because you need a primary color to mix those secondaries effectively. So I'm in Texas. We don't get a lot of bright colors except in spring. Yeah, and that's a good point, Deborah. We were talking about that last week on the show. Use your palette for what you're painting. That's a great point, Deborah. Is, you know, if you don't have vibrancy out there, then don't do this kind of stuff like what I just did, right? You want to use more muted colors. But the way you do that is you use the complementary color on the color wheel to dial down the vibrancy of that value in that color. That's how you do that. So you just got to get good at that. You got to practice. It just takes practice. So in Texas, I mean, I know what you're saying. I've been there. It's more, your values and your colors are squashed down, and that's okay. You just got to get good at, you know, I like to use pure color. Like I like to just dip into orange, yellow, and just do that. I just like to because it's fun. But if it's not there, don't do it. If you don't see it, don't do it. But a lot of times here in Colorado, you know, Colorado is the second most sunniest state, you know, next to California. And I think I missed a comment here. I don't mean to get my mug in here, but, and Cannabis, sorry, I think I said that wrong. We said, very lovely, man. Going to Crown Land on a painting trip this afternoon. Enjoy fall and keep painting. You too. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you do an awesome plein air painting. Glad you're getting out there, and encourage all of you guys to get out there because plein air painting, it brings me a lot of peace and joy. I don't know about you, but I just got to kind of, you know, sometimes I'll go with the family, but sometimes I got to get away from, like, you know, the world and family, if you know what I mean. And but anyway, I in Colorado we do get vibrant, bright, chromatic colors because of the sun. It's almost always out. So these are bright colors everywhere. Yeah, there are bright colors everywhere. Look closer. It's a good point. I mean, that's a very, very good point. I mean, you've heard me say before, push your colors, go where no man or no woman has gone before, because you can always dial it back, right? I can take that color right there, and I can add blue to it and tone it down, and I can just mute it out like that. So I can change it if I don't like it. But I will tell you this: there are beautiful colors everywhere. There are powerful colors everywhere, and people like color and they like contrast. So. AZ is doing 6x6 painting a day. Yeah, are you doing that daily painting thing, AZ? That's pretty cool. I really like that idea, daily painting. I mean, I've been out in the fall painting as much as I can, more than I normally do, and I've noticed that just things come a little easier, and my paintings are looking a little bit nicer, you know, than when I'm kind of, you know, not painting as often. So if you haven't heard of daily painting like AZ's doing, paint small, 6x6, 6x8, 8x10. Because it's the finished painting. It's the finished painting that counts, right? It's as many starts and finishes as you can do. You wouldn't want to, you know, AZ wouldn't want to do a daily painting of 18x24 because he may not finish. It's what AZ is trying to do is he's trying to do starts and finishes. And by doing that repetitively, he's hardwiring his brain to figure out the challenges. And I really love that idea. Corey says, I love Gamblin transparent orange on my palette because it makes a gorgeous green when mixed with ultramarine blue. Wow, that's pretty cool. Thanks for that suggestion, Corey. So she's using Gamblin transparent orange. I have not tried that, but I love that idea. And especially being a Colorado painter like you are, Corey, it's good to try to pick your colors in your palette based on seasons and based on where you live and based on lighting conditions. Really, really smart to do that. So I like that. And, you know, I had in this video I'm releasing tomorrow morning on aspen trees, I had phthalo green, a cheater color, on my palette for all summer because I loved what I could achieve with that phthalo green, you know, out there in the summer landscape. But I took it off because it doesn't fit my winter landscape palette. So Deborah says, that's interesting, Corey. I never thought of mixing orange and ultramarine to make a green. I know to make a green, it's usually blue and yellow. However, that transparent orange, and you can comment, Corey, to Deborah's comment there. It's probably just, you know, just a variation that allows it to achieve a more muted. Am I right, Corey? A more muted kind of tonal green, if I'm correct there, because it's not as vibrant. Maybe I'm just guessing, but here's this question. As you guys, if you want to fire more questions, go ahead. But this question is, you know, what's your preferred time of day to paint? From a subscriber. What's your preferred time of day to paint? I mean, the short answer is anytime, man. Anytime is a good time to paint. But if I were to pick, it would obviously be 1 hour after sunrise and 1 hour before sunset. So that's known as the magic hour, the golden hour. Photographers and painters love that because of where the sun is in the sky. It's not directly overhead and washing out all the colors, right? It's a low-lying light. It's a gentle light that washes over everything, and it's just beautiful colors and values, right? So yes, more tonal. Thank you, Corey. So that transparent orange, what she does is it makes it more of a tonal green because it's not as vibrant as mixing like a yellow and a blue to create that pop of a green. So thanks for that tip. I might check that out too. And it's more natural looking. That's a good point, Corey. I mean, greens are tough. Greens are really, really tough. So if you can find some colors and some mixing tricks of the trade that'll help you with your greens, that's a really good point. So I'm glad you mentioned that. While fishing at sunrise, what's your favorite time? AZ says, while fishing at sunrise, take photos to paint later. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. My problem is I can't get up early enough, but the early bird gets the worm, right, AZ? It's like I should get up. But I always tell myself, you know, because I'm down on the treadmill working out and getting my back stretched out at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I am up, but I look out the window and I'm like, I need to grab my paints and get out there. But Man, have you ever tried painting from your boat, AZ? Monet did that once or twice. You know, did you see that? But I know you take the picture and go back and paint it later, which is a fabulous idea. So you know, that's my favorite time to paint because it's a gentle light. You know, I mean, I really don't like when I'm heading out to plein air paint and I look at my watch and it's like 11 a.m. I just go, bummer. It's different in the mountains. We get different light in the mountains, but I try to avoid the 11 to 1 or 2 p.m. hours. Those because the light's directly overhead. Everything's washed out. There's not a lot of strong color and value, and I don't like that at all. But any time of day is good to plein air paint, man. It doesn't matter if you get out there. It's about having fun too. I mean, we talk about tips and techniques, but you got to have some fun. If you don't enjoy it, why are we out here, right? But if you can get some tips and be better at it, I think you're going to enjoy it a little bit more. So, AZ says yesterday at 11 mile, 13 degrees, too cold to paint. Oh, wow, man. 13 degrees. Yeah, that's, that's a little, I was doing that aspen tree video that I'm going to release in the morning up there. And it was the first, Corey would know where it is. It was up on Owl Creek Pass. And oh my goodness, it was cold up there. I mean, it was probably 11,000 feet up where I was. But I was whining, as you'll see in the video. I was whining, but you know, I'm a Colorado winter painter at heart. But you know, I'm ready for winter painting. I love it. It's my favorite. Just the colors and the snow and everything else like that. So, well, hey, if you guys don't have any other questions, I'll kind of leave it there, and I'm gonna put this next video up here. I'll just give you a chance to throw in another question if you have one, but watch this video. I didn't do much teaching in it, but plein air landscape demo. I'll put that up here. And I was up in the mountains of above Telluride, really, really high up. You can kind of look at my brush strokes and just see, it's just one of those more gentle, soothing videos to look at my brush strokes. But I'll put that up. And then, hey, watch my aspen tree video that I'm going to release tomorrow. Give it a look. It really helps the YouTube algorithm pump it up and show it to more people. So if you could watch that this weekend, I would greatly appreciate it. But hey, God bless you guys. Thanks for your interaction. Thanks for all your advice and your help. And I hope you have an awesome week of painting. So I'll see you over there in this next video, man. I'll put it up there now. All right. God bless you. Take care. See ya. Bye.